Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. My name is Drew Pearson. You are listening to the Pearson Perspective. This is a deep dive into the stories and mindsets of successful business operators and investors. Let's go have some fun. All right, today I'm really excited. I've got my friend and guest here, Ryan Inc. Ryan owns Servio Captial, and he's in a similar business as I am. I guess officially he's a syndicator. They focus on multifamily investments, helping to build great projects and improving communities. Ryan, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, man. Whoever's listening, like, subscribe,
Yeah.
because Drew's going to deliver some really good content to you guys.
Well, man, thanks. It's really, I benefit so much from this. I absolutely love this. So even if no one listens, like, it's a win.
Right.
I love it. Well, Ryan, why don't you tell us, kind of how in the world you got into this business and what Servio Captial does and what its mission is?
I started off right out of college, actually teaching. I taught theology at a high school level. And then Hurricane Katrina hit when my wife was 8 months pregnant for our first child. And that just kind of, my wife is the oldest of 11 kids. That was our first kid. We have 5 kids now. And I just knew already I was doing real estate on the side as just like a real estate agent. And I knew that, being a teacher wasn't going to be the most ideal way for me to be able to support those kids. And I really did enjoy real estate. I was kind of a beginner at the time, just looking at single family stuff. And, I just kind of absorbed all the knowledge that I could absorb and started buying and investing and renting out. And I developed a small portfolio of, single family and some multifamily stuff. And there was a period of time where I had about over 100 single and small multifamily. And I thought that, like, I had made it. And I was like, I am a real estate tycoon, And around the same time, I had a buddy that also graduated college from me. He had 5 kids as well. He was a teacher as well. His little brother graduated from Harvard. And as soon as he graduated, he said, hey, why don't we blow up a real estate company? I know how to scale it. I know how to, just make a massive real estate company. I learned the model. And I said, really, man, that sounds awesome. So he had been doing that for 10 years, and I had been doing this for 10 years on a smaller scale. But in those 10 years, he had grown his real estate company to $4 billion in assets under management. And and I was like, maybe I'm playing too small. It sounds like I'm playing too small. So I went and I said, look, man, can I just come down to Tampa and pick your brain for like 3 days? And 3 days, my business partner and I went down there and picked his brain. He showed us his entire operations, his key people, the entire model. And, it was really just spending 3 days with someone who was at a level past where we were at. And after that, we said, we could do this. And so we did. And today we have, actually, after we close a deal in New Orleans on Monday, we'll have about $200 million in assets under management.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it's
Wow.
been fun.
All right, so a lot of things we can talk about here, but one, let's talk about the generosity of this guy in Tampa. I mean, what were some of your kind of large takeaways there? 3 days, I'm sure it was like breathing through a fire hose. What kind of jumps out at you there?
Rob, his name's Rob Reynolds. He's always been a really generous guy, very open with sharing his knowledge and his wisdom. He's a deeply devout Christian, and I think he kind of sees the world not as like a slice of pie. If I give you some, then that's less for me. He sees it more as like an abundance. There's a lot out there, and he was just willing to help me out.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
that zero-sum mindset is not good, that we all can benefit and grow and improve and have enough.
I mean, that's what you're doing here with the podcast. I mean, it's just sharing the knowledge.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, man, that's awesome. So let's talk a little bit about Servio Captial. What do you guys do? And, it's not a name I'm familiar with. I'm sure there's a story kind of behind that name.
So I skipped the good part of the story, and part of that story is I opened up an indoor sports arena in the New Orleans area sometime after the hurricane hit, And I hired this consultant, and I asked him to do a feasibility study for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought he was going to provide me with this feasibility and ask me questions about the market and the demand and all this stuff. He said, I'm going to give you this quote, and I just want you to think about this for a day. My first reaction was like, what is this? Like a philosophical lesson? Like I want you to do a feasibility study for me, not like give me homework to like think about and meditate on. But the quote was from Albert Schweitzer, which was, this much I know, those of you who will truly be happy will be the ones who have sought and found a way to serve. And I really took that to heart, and that changed my life, is just understanding that, you know, happiness is in serving other people and finding problems in the market, solving those problems. And, you know, whether you make $1 million, you don't make any money, you're truly going to be happy in this life in serving people. And if you orient your mission and your values and your daily life around your ability and your capacity and your willingness to serve other people, that's where you truly be happy. So the name of our company is Servio Capital. Servio is Latin for to serve, and we look to use our gifts and talents, you know, which happen to be in real estate, with serving investors, helping people create passive income that might not normally have those opportunities, and serving those communities, going into communities where, you know, might be in a little bit of disrepair, and we go in and add value to those communities. It might be painting the outside or taking the laundry room and putting the laundry inside their apartment and turning the laundry room into a fitness facility, something we can add value to. Or helping people become homeowners again, and then serving our employees as well. So, I mean, that was kind of the genesis of the company and how we got started, and the mission and purpose is in the name.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Help me understand how you think about balancing. You have an investor base, and you want to serve them through, I'm sure, good communication. You have returns you want to rescind to them. That's part of serving. But you also have tenants on the other side. You know, how do you not kind of serve the tenant too much and maybe sacrifice returns, maybe serve the investor too much and sacrifice that tenant experience or your employees? You know, those are a lot of people to serve, and how do you kind of think about that?
I think you hit the nail on the head. You have to balance it. You know, there's only so much you can serve people in certain capacities and in ways that are reasonable. Mm-hmm. You know, you're going to serve your investors best by improving the lives of the people in the community the most. And the counterpoint to that is people pay for value. You don't want people that don't even care about the value that you're providing. You know, casting your pearls before swine comes to mind.
Right.
A lot of times when we go into communities, there's a percentage of the people who really appreciate the improvements that we make in those facilities, and they are willing to increase the value they provide to you for the value provided to them. Mm-hmm. And there's another percentage of people that said, you know what, I really don't care about this value. I'm going to go somewhere else.
And that's fine.
And that's fine.
Yeah. Not everybody's our customer.
That's right. That's exactly. Okay. Not everybody is our customer.
That's really helped me a lot in my career, is just understanding that we're not for everybody. Maybe we're not for every investor, and that's okay. Maybe we're not for every self-storage customer, and that's okay. But we need to know who we are and kind of stay true to those core values and principles.
Yeah, I think there's three main questions. There's that relate to service, and it's, who do you want to serve? Why do you want to serve them? And how are you going to serve them?
Ooh, man.
You know, the who, why, and how. And understanding who your customer is, it's like, you know, some people say, well, these people, you know, they wanted to stay in their apartment, but you charge more rent. I'm like, well, we also put in a pool. We also put in a fitness facility. We also gave them granite countertops and new floors and painted the exterior. Right. And we kicked out the riffraff and the drug dealers. And,
right.
you know, we made their community safe again. We gated it. You know, we painted, you know, so,
right.
So it's like, I'm not trying to serve that person. That person is not my customer. Mm-hmm. My customer is the person who really appreciates having that extra element of safety and cleanliness and
right.
convenience.
That's huge. And so in your mind, your customer is the apartment tenant. That's really, if we can kind of serve them first and foremost, the investors, the employees, they're all going to get taken care of if we can serve this person well.
That's on definitely a micro level and that's something that people who own apartments go back and forth. Is my customer the investor? Is my customer the apartment owner? Well, It's both.
Okay, it's both.
It's both. The more you solve people's problems in a marketplace, I believe the more investment return you're going to receive from that. I'll give you an example. In Lafayette, Lafayette's got an affordable housing problem. Mm-hmm. They've got Amazon that was moving to the north. They got another medical facility to the south, and they were getting an extra 5,000 to 8,000 people in their population. At the same time, because of COVID, you had some of the hotels that went out of business, and these become either blighted properties or landfills. And we went in and we took over this hotel and we converted it into affordable. When I say affordable, I don't mean government. I just mean it's affordable. Mm-hmm. We converted it into micro apartment units. And after we did that, very nice location. It was 270 units. We converted to 217. And you have people that were paying these low rents in these bad areas that had no amenities. And all of a sudden you could solve that problem and provide the lowest rent in the area. Plus you have a pool and a gym and, nice wide open area and a workout facility and a game room and co-working space and a park, everything you get with a hotel,
Wow.
So, we saw that as, look, we solved the affordable housing crisis that they were having. We solved the problem that the tenants had with low rents and the problem the community was having in providing housing. So, something like that's solving the customer for both the community, the individual tenants, and for the investors. It was a large return.
Wow. What a great, we all can get behind that story.
Yeah.
That's a great story.
Yeah. Thank you.
That's awesome. So one of the things I've learned is real estate doesn't run itself. People run real estate. And so I've put a lot of time lately into building a team, and I'm very thankful now we have a team with over 60 years of combined experience in self-storage operations. And so we're really getting better and better every day. But how have you thought about building out your team in those kind of key seats?
Yeah, that's kind of the first thing you think about is what can we do to make this as scalable as possible, and making it as scalable as possible. You have to have the right people on the bus. You have to have the right, positions. And I think it's harder and in some ways easier than people think in trying to figure out what those positions are, because you've got your own skill sets. Right. Me personally, I'm really good at raising capital and finding deals. What I'm not good at is being a financial controller.
Yep.
Yep. So our first hire was a financial controller, someone who's doing the books and doing the asset management and going through the day-to-day stuff. Then once we started scaling more, it was important to me to just kind of supplement what my business partner and I were doing. So we hired an administrative assistant. That was our second role. It was just somebody to assist with what we were already doing. The third person was a regional property manager, because we felt like we could control cost and quality more by not outsourcing the property management, but bringing it in-house and having somebody that had a lot of experience and was just a rock star was important for us to grow and scale that portion of it. And then the last person that we hired was a acquisitions analyst, someone who's just going out and finding deals all day long. And then we also have an investor relations position.
You got the full suite. I mean, it's everybody.
Right. It wasn't all at once, but
Absolutely.
It's something that as you scale, as you make new acquisitions, you want to keep on adding those people to make it more.
Yeah. So let's talk about really quick your regional manager. So you have on-site managers at the apartment complexes, and this regional manager who kind of checks in. Is that a monthly site visit? And then do you kind of have key metrics you're monitoring Is it just a visual walk around? Like, how do you know that the on-site managers are doing their job and we're happy?
Yeah, so it's about once every other week, not as much as once a month or as long as once a month. But yeah, we've got what we call our KPIs, your key performance indicators.
Mm-hmm.
So her job is to constantly manage occupancy, collections, turn time of units. And there's a couple other metrics that we put in there, but we basically have 5 to 6 KPIs that we look at, that we measure her job by, and so she's constantly going to the property managers and making sure they're on track with their numbers and setting goals. So if they, for example, accomplish 100% collections, there's bonuses involved.
Bingo. So we incentivize for those important things.
Exactly.
On your acquisition side, I know you've kind of done some interesting things with, kind of outsourcing, really increasing your deal flow. Do y'all have a template that folks just kind of plug in, or do you have an Excel model? What does kind of your acquisition underwriting process look like?
We've got our own system, so our acquisition analyst actually does a tremendous job. And so we've got our spreadsheets that, we make assumptions, we plug and play. I mean, we typically are looking at rent roll and T12 on a deal that's already cash flowing. If it's a developmental deal, we've got our developmental models. But our acquisition team, we actually invite our investors to be part of that. If they want to, some investors want to be a little more involved, or they want to be on the GP side of things, or they just want to understand what's going on. So we actually have a large base of investors that also brings deals to the table that we can take a look at. So we do every Tuesday and Thursday, we have an acquisition team meeting. We have about 25 people on the acquisition team and a couple of investors that pop in and out, every now and then. And we basically just look at, analyze, and underwrite deals the entire time. And we probably it ebbs and flows, but on average, we're making about 2 offers a week.
Wow.
With real estate, you heard, like location, like that's a secret. Like, not if you're an investor. If you're an investor, it's make offers.
Love it. Yep.
And the more offers you make, the more good deals you get.
Yeah, I love it. This show is brought to you by Pearson Partners, helping families create wealth through self-storage. Self-storage provides capital preservation, monthly income, and can lower your taxes. We have a team with over 60 years of self-storage experience, and we can help you. To find out more, go to our website, Pearson Partners PE, sign up for our newsletter, or listen to other of our podcasts. It's important for me that you understand how we think and view the world, and this is a great place to start. Thanks so much for listening. Let's get back to the show. I love that I'm working hard to kind of increase our deal flow. That's, at this point, our biggest bottleneck,
The deal flow.
Deal flow, yeah. And so if we can increase that, then we'll have a capital problem, and then we'll have to kind of go solve that one. That's just how it goes.
That's right. Yeah. It's the constant balance.
So last question on the team. Investor relations seems like such a far-off thing from where we are. We've got 24 investors maybe. When is it appropriate to kind of start thinking about making that higher? Is it 100 investors, 200 investors? Have you thought about that?
Well, I mean, I think you just have to solve for your own personal pain points.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it got to the point for me where it was hard between all of the properties and we want to be in constant communication with our investors. So at least once every other week, communications about how we are doing according to the business plan.
Wow.
But once a week is better,
Is this phone call or email?
It's an email.
Okay.
So, basically there's KPIs that we have, and our investors know those KPIs. And so we send those out, once a week. And then once a month is more of a business plan overview. How are we doing according to our original plan?
Man.
And, having that person that can give the detailed story on every property, that was just solving for the pain point.
Yeah.
And then of course, that's not all they do. They also help bring investors to the table. They help facilitate the administration of the PPM, the paperwork, and when you call capital, like there's a lot that goes into that you probably don't want to do when you get to a certain point.
No. That's interesting. I can't believe you're buying a deal next week. I guess interest rates haven't affected you guys too much. We're still finding some opportunities.
I mean, to say they haven't affected us, I mean, I think they're affecting everybody, but we're kind of solving for the interest rate. So we're only buying deals that have existing cash flow, or the developmental aspect to it is so strong and the numbers are so strong that they can sustain the higher interest rates. So the one that we're doing is actually an arbitrage opportunity. And for those listeners that aren't familiar with arbitrage in real estate, it's basically when you take things that are one way and convert them to something else, like the hotels to apartments. So this particular deal is 167 units in New Orleans that were luxury apartments. We looked at it as apartments. We said, well, I mean, it's cash flowing, but the numbers don't work for our investment metrics. Let's see if we can look at it through another arbitrage lens. And when we looked at the condo market, we said, wow, we have about a $200,000 spread between what we can buy them for as apartments and sell them for as condos. And so, when you do that, you just basically come up with all the pain points of what it would take for someone to purchase something like that, and you solve for those pain points. So interest rates are actually, they can give you a competitive advantage because people are still buying right now. They're just going on the sidelines. And so if you could go into the market and say, hey, let me buy down the interest rate for you. Here's our price, but I'm going to buy down the interest rate.
Wow.
So now you are able to offer a product on the market to buyers that are willing to buy, but you're giving it to them at a better cost than anybody else is able to do.
Ooh, man, that's good.
Fun.
Oh, man. See, that's good thinking. I mean, that is just creative thinking. Wow.
Yeah, you kind of have to be a little creative with it with this market, but
Yeah.
I mean, I think
it feels like it's going to work. It
is going to work.
Good.
So we actually we close on Monday. We've got already 15 million of the units already pre-sold.
Oh, gosh, sign me up.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, this sounds great.
Right. Yeah. So and without even bringing it onto the MLS yet, it's just it's all through like JVs and through my own personal network.
Yeah. Did you think about just doing Airbnb in the whole thing?
So it's already got 66 units that are run as Airbnbs. It's kind of got a unique competitive advantage because it's the only place in New Orleans. It's the closest to the French Quarter where Airbnb is allowed. Mm-hmm. And the reason it's allowed is because the actual building has grandfathered into it a hotel license. So it's actually not run as like an Airbnb, it's run as, like a hotel license.
Wow.
So
that's cool.
Yeah.
That's going to be a fun project.
It's a cool project, yeah. It comes with its stresses, but it's
It's never easy. Okay?
Yeah, it's never easy.
It's never easy.
But it's fun.
So we've talked a little bit about Servio Capital. We've talked a little bit about people and investments. One thing I think is really interesting about you is you have 5 kids. That usually doesn't happen by accident. Let's talk a little bit about your faith and about your kids and your family. I know that's really important to you.
Yeah, I got 5 boys. I don't know how to make a girl. But yeah, I mean, so my wife is the oldest of 11 kids, and I'm one of 6 kids, and we've always been very pro-life, and we've seen the fruits that having a lot of children has had in people's lives. Like it just feels more joyful with more life around, and so our faith, we're very faithful Catholics. And we decided that when we got married that we were going to be open to life. It wasn't easy at first,
sure.
Now it's really freaking easy. Like my oldest, he drives and he babysits, and as soon as he was able to buckle his belt, it was like, man, this is going to be cake. We can have him buckle everybody else up,
Yep, that's right.
So no, it's been amazing. We are actually at the point where this might surprise some people, but we were at the point where she had so many C-sections that she's no longer able to have children, and that was probably one of the saddest days of my life. Is when my 5th was born, and we were told that we couldn't have any more children. you spend so much time like being overwhelmed or complaining about all these kids, but as soon as the opportunity was taken away, it brought tears to my eyes.
Wow.
Because having that being able to bring life into the world is the greatest gift we have. I mean, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how much money you make if you got nobody to share it with. If you don't have a family that you're coming home to, that you're nurturing and you're growing and teaching them how to make an impact on the world, it seems pretty fruitless.
Yeah. Well, that's incredible. I know that hard work's important to you. I know teaching your boys hard work is important. My son is 7, so we're getting closer to that point.
Yeah.
I don't need to have the hardest working 7-year-old on the block. By the time he gets 12 or 13, that's going to change.
Yeah.
We've kind of had some other conversations. I'm just curious if we could share, like, how do you think about that with your boys, and again, kind of passing on that legacy of what's helped to make you successful.
I've spent a lot of time thinking about that, because if you're sitting here creating this, this company and who you might pass that on to, and you hear about people who are successful and they've got like these trust fund babies and they're like the worst in the world,
Sure.
And so where do you find that balance, and what is the strategy there? And I knew that I had screwed up when my oldest was 12, and I said, hey, it's summertime. You want to see if there's anybody's lawn to mow so you can, he's like, or any work that you could do around the neighborhood. He's like, why would I want to work? And I said, well, so you can have money. And he goes, why do I need money? And it was at that moment I was like, I screwed up. This kid needs to have. So as like from that point forward, anything he wanted, as so much as like to go to the movies with his friends, I'm like, well, how are you going to pay for that? Like,
I love it.
There's no money being given to him anymore. And so then now, I mean, we've solved that problem. He like loves working now. He's got a job, and he's, he saves, and there's some that are, like the second oldest is starting to work, and then the third oldest is going around the neighborhood washing cars. So you really want to encourage that entrepreneurship. So the vision that I have for the future is on a macro level, say 20 years from now, it's a challenge for a dad to want to be able to provide for his kids and do that without screwing them up like a trust fund baby,
right.
So I think there's a difference between the Rockefellers and I want to say the Carnegies, is that the Rockefellers still have all of their wealth that their family established. Right. Carnegie, I think, were arguably maybe even wealthier than the Rockefellers, but they lost it by the second generation. And they all became like these trust fund babies and all that stuff.
Right.
And the difference was that they set up basically a family office, a family fund. Mm-hmm. So it's instead of, oh, you want to go to college here, let me just give you money to do it. If you want this car, this Lamborghini or whatever, let me just give you money to buy it. The family office was basically a family fund, a family bank account that had several board members, and basically you had to apply in order to get that money. So the problem wasn't money, the problem was access to that money. So in the future, I'd like to set up sort of a family office structure so that it encourages entrepreneurship in my kids. If they want to buy a house, if they want to go to college, I want them to think of everything in terms of an investment. And they could borrow that money from the family fund with a business plan to pay it back. And I think that's kind of the direction that I'm heading in, trying to teach my kids that's entrepreneurship.
That is beautiful.
And personal responsibility.
Man, I love that idea. And even like people listening, it's not like you have to have $50 million to do this. It's the mindset that I think you're trying to instill more than a dollar amount. And with the right mindset, you can accomplish anything.
That's right. I mean, I'm not at family office status. I think the average family office has $50 million or more to invest. But I'm at the point where I say, all right, hey, boys, I have this money. If you want to start a business, if you want to start, a landscaping business or an automated business or whatever else, you have access to this. I'm just telling you guys right now, it's there. You just need to take advantage of it. You need to come up with a business plan, and here's how you do it.
Right.
You can do that with $10.
Yeah, absolutely. And just teaching your kids leverage. Like, there's financial leverage, there's technology leverage, There's capital or human leverage, like employees. Like, how do we set up systems? How do we create a yard business where I'm not the one cutting the grass, but I have someone to help me cut the grass?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we want to kind of teach our kids.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Man, that's great. Well, I'm sure your kids are going to do great things.
I hope so.
Yeah. Well, Ryan, this has been a lot of fun. To kind of wrap it up and bring it home here, do you have any books that have been impactful to you in your life? Maybe you've gifted a lot.
I actually have my kids do a summer reading list, and it's all the ways that I want to form them and shape them.
Okay, great.
So Rich Dad, Poor Dad was on everybody's required reading list.
Great.
I want them to understand early, the mindsets that he teaches in Robert Kiyosaki's book. But then there's others that are, more, on the spiritual level, like Wild at Heart is one of my favorite books. And that's especially because I have 5 boys and I'm raising boys, and that was a good book to read.
Yep.
But those are the main ones. Oh, there's also, I'm trying to remember it. I feel bad if I don't remember. It's in my phone. I might just tell you later. It's in the show notes, but it's actually only on audio. And I've read it like 3 or 4 times.
And so really the last question I love to ask people is if you could go back and give yourself advice maybe 10 or 15 years ago, what would you say?
I would say to know the difference between investing and speculating. And really think through what you want. Keep the end in mind, before you get into something. I started indoor sports arena, and I was just like, man, it'd be so fun to have like indoor sports and be around sports all day. What I thought it was be like this ESPN type thing, and I'm just like hanging around and playing sports and doing some management duties. What I was actually doing was handling referee complaints and schedule requests. So and it was also something that I was starting from the ground up. I wasn't buying into an existing revenue stream. There's nothing wrong with that. There's a lot of people that do startup businesses, but if you're in a startup, you probably want to 10x your money.
Right.
If you're investing $50,000, you want 3 or 4 years from now be at $500,000, a year. But investing is like having known outcomes, and nowadays I am more along the lines of investing than speculating. I don't want to guess if there's demand in the area. I want to know that there's demand in the area.
Yeah.
Before putting my capital or other people's capital at risk.
Yeah. Well, man, Ryan, this has been a ton of fun.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for coming in.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me, and thanks for doing this. This has been fun.
Great. I will really appreciate it if you'd leave us a review on Spotify, Apple, or anywhere you're listening or watching to this show. Thanks so much for joining us on this audio adventure. Let's go have some fun.